one about the Englishman who went up a hill and came down a mountain. Well, Snowdon is definitely a mountain, but now a group of amateur mountain surveyors say it's taller than we originally thought. Not by a great deal, but if it's correct, it could rewrite the mountain's history. Well, let's speak to Graham Jackson now, who's from G&J Surveys and one of part of the trio who surveyed the mountain. Good afternoon to you.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me on the programme.
Thanks very much for speaking to us. How much taller do you make it then?
In round numbers, it was 1 metre taller than is actually on the current maps.
Okay, so not a great deal, but significant nonetheless. What made you want to measure the mountain then? I mean, did you have a suspicion that it might be taller than official records suggested, or was that just a coincidence?
Well, it's an iconic mountain, and therefore, I mean, it's always something that we'd been interested in measuring, but what prompted us was that we were contacted by two companies, Cread and Slam Media, who are making a 6-part series for television called The Mountain. And this follows the lives of people that work on and in the shadow of Snowdon. And as part of that, they'd heard of work we'd done before, and they contacted us and invited us to measure the height of Snowdon as part of that programme. So that's what we did.
And that's how it all began. How did you actually go about measuring it then?
Well, first of all, we did a reconnaissance to mainly see where we could set the equipment up that we were going to use to make the measurement, and whether we would be able to set it up in a position away from people, because the summit is, of course, is crowded with people during the daytime, and the equipment would be compromised if there were a lot of people around it. So we did the reconnaissance first of all, and we then, on the strength of that, realised we had to make the measurements at night, and that is what we duly did. We were kindly allowed to stay in the cafeteria overnight and use that as a base, and we used GPS equipment, survey-grade GPS equipment, to measure the height.
And when it comes to measuring the height of it, I mean, you obviously are at odds with what the Ordnance Survey is saying by a metre. Are you both measuring the very same point then?
No, we're not.
Right.
That's quite right. I mean, the Ordnance Survey were represented on the survey with us. When we do surveys of this nature, we either send the data set to the Ordnance Survey, or sometimes the Ordnance Survey choose to come with us. And on this occasion, we had a representative with us, and the only point that you really can measure is the base of the plinth, which of course is a man-made feature and has altered over time. And it was that caused the discrepancy between the current height of 1086, which we measured, to the height that's on the maps, which is 1085, which was a measurement made to a bolt in a piece of rock, which was part of the natural summit, which is buried under all of the man-made paraphernalia on the summit now. So it's that 1 metre that's caused the difference.
Right.
Both measurements are accurate,
yeah.
But then the dilemma arises, which one do you put on the maps?
Well, exactly.
That's where the Ordnance Survey, of course, had to make a decision. Do they take the highest point, which is partly man-made, or do they take the natural rock, which I think many people would prefer, which is buried under that plinth, and they chose to remain with the natural height, which we would certainly support.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. And just before you go, this is a hobby for you, is it, Graham?
Yes, it is. Yeah, the three of us, we've measured quite a few hills now, and it's all stemmed from a love of hill walking. And as you go about the hills, and you wonder where a summit is and whether it is the highest point and how high it really is, that then gets you into thinking how you may survey these points, and that's what got us into this in the first place. Bit of a one-off hobby, but yeah, we enjoy it. It's good fun.
Oh, it's a brilliant one. Thanks ever so much for speaking to us about it. That's Graham Jackson there from G&J Surveys, one of the men who measured the highest point on Snowdon.
Yeah, we're talking about hobbies.